All right, good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar sponsored by the Levin College Mentoring Program. My name is Alexandra Higgle and I serve as the Program Manager at the Center for Public and Nonprofit Management. Today, we're really excited because we get to hear from 4 fantastic panelists, including 2 Levin College alumni, about internship and career search best practices, how to make the most out of your internship and career, and much, much more. But before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items. Please note that today's session is being recorded and will be posted on the college's YouTube channel. So if you need to log off early, it will be available there. Secondly, we will reserve the last 30 minutes or so for audience Q&A. So think of some questions to ask the panelists and feel free to send those in at any time. And then we'll address those questions again around the last 30 minutes or so. I'd also like to thank our moderators and panelists for being here today. We really wouldn't be able to do this without their support. So we are so grateful that they're volunteering their time. And with all of that said, I'd like to have a special shout out and thanks to our co-moderators and current Levin College students, Courtni Biggin and Nate Lull. Courtni and Nate put a lot of time and effort into preparing for today, and we are thrilled for them to take the reins. So before we kick off today's discussion, I do want to formally introduce Courtni and Nate. Courtni is a sophomore studying urban and regional planning. She is also pursuing a certificate in historic preservation at the Levin College and is passionate about all things Cleveland. Recently, Courtni had the opportunity to volunteer for the mayoral transition team on the neighborhood-oriented subcommittee. Here, she engaged with community members to discuss priority areas for the new mayoral administration. She enjoys film photography and food and has an Instagram account dedicated to all her favorite spots in the Cleveland area. Thanks, Courtni, for being here today. We also have Nate Lull. Nate is a senior studying regional planning with a minor in sustainable urban development at the Levin College of Urban Affairs. He's currently working at Ohio City Incorporated and was just promoted to neighborhood planning manager after his internship. He joined the executive board of CSU's American Planning Association, also known as APA, in 2021, and now serves as the chapter secretary. Thank you, Nate, for being with us this afternoon. Without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Courtni and Nate to formally introduce our panelists.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm so glad to have everybody on. I would like to first introduce Mary Siwierka. She is the HR director at the City of Avon Lake.
Hello. Thank you.
Hi, Mary. And also Francesca Klypchak. Francesca is the development and marketing coordinator at After School All Stars in Cleveland.
Thank you, Courtni. Hi, everyone.
Our next panelist is Rybka. He is the HR manager at Destination Cleveland.
Hi there. Thanks, Nate.
And finally, last but not least, Brittany Wampler is the director of career development and exploration at Cleveland State University.
Thanks for inviting me.
All right, excellent. Well, should we get into our background questions? The first question we have for you all, we were hoping you could share some advice for when somebody is applying to an entry-level position, which would require, in some cases, years of experience.
I'd be happy to kick things off with that. My biggest piece of advice is don't be afraid to just go for it. I know it may seem scary and intimidating to apply for a job you think you might not be qualified for, but that's how you grow in your career and that's how you grow in your own professional development. I would say just definitely go for it, apply for it, get yourself that interview and really sell yourself during that interview. That would be my biggest piece of advice for that.
I would echo that same sentiment. Giving an example, recently we were looking for a manager in a department, and one of the more entry level personnel did apply for it and did get an interview and really did a great job. And afterwards, the interview team all thought, wow, that took some real guts and gumption to do that. But he sold himself, and he put himself in a place to think about a couple of years from now when he's ready for a more experienced role.
I would echo both your sentiments as well, and then add on that I would add any shadowing, volunteer projects, both prior work and school, should all be included in your resume and or cover letter where it's appropriate. Try to separate yourself from other applicants. Any project-related work in school, I personally use to articulate years of experience where it related to the job, and be prepared to speak on it if you're going to go that route.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Corey. And, you know, I think especially for students who are getting ready to graduate and do their first destination job search, it can be a really intimidating process. But I think that looking at all that you have accomplished during your time at Cleveland State might actually count toward years of experience. And so a lot of the time it is those projects, those internships, big work experiences with transferable skills that actually could get you to meeting the minimum requirements for numbers of years, even if they were part-time positions or part-time or full-time internships over the summer. So I agree, don't sell yourself short, but make sure that you're adequately representing your experience on applications. And one of the things I know that we talk about in our office quite often is, I think when it comes to the job search, a lot of students might apply for 3 or 4 or 5 positions and they're like, okay, where's the interview? And job searching is a strategy, and learning the strategies for navigating that big first search is about identifying roles in which you're qualified for, and also roles in which it might be a stretch, but you can throw an application anywhere. And there's also no rules when it comes to putting yourself out there and networking. And so in our office, we also often talk with students about how to network strategically. And doing that networking, especially for a role that you're really interested in, can mean the difference between hearing back and getting that first interview or not.
Yeah, those are fantastic responses. And kind of building off that, another question is, what are some soft skills that employers are looking for? May not be marketable in a resume, but what are some soft skills that employers really look for?
I'd be happy to, oh, sorry, you can go ahead,
No,
Corey.
go ahead, Francesca.
Okay, I was just going to say professionalism is definitely a big thing I think employers are looking for right now. Just speaking from experience and a few interviews my organization has done recently, I think with COVID, there was obviously a very big switch from remote to in-person. And with that came a bit more casualness, especially just in the career world and within jobs itself. And I think that you just need to remember to bring that professionalism, whether it be in a remote interview or in an in-person interview. Treat a remote interview just like you would an in-person interview. I know, like, my organization, After School All-Stars Cleveland, we're looking for someone who can do a remote interview and present themselves professionally in the same way, come prepared with questions, come understanding what the job description is. So I would say that would be one of the key skills where employers are looking for.
I would echo that, as well as flexibility. I think adaptability, that is something that if you've done volunteerism or you've done multiple jobs, that does show that you've got some adaptability and flexibility, and that you're willing to learn and try new things.
Absolutely, I would echo both of those. I would also add self-awareness and empathy, especially with everyone being virtual. It's harder to read someone's body language or know what's going on behind the scenes when you are at a computer. How this might look during an interview, specifically self-awareness, are behavioral-based interview questions. One of those would be, what is a significant mistake that you've made and what did you learn from it? Can't think of one versus being human and explaining how you made a mistake and learned something is a lot more valuable and shows that you're self-aware. So I put self-awareness at the top of my list.
I love the mistake question. Everyone makes mistakes and can certainly speak to that. We actually reflect on NACE career competencies, and there's a bunch of competencies that the goal is that by the time our students graduate, they have the capacity and understanding. And I'll run through them really quickly, but a lot of them were already hit on: communication skills, critical thinking, the ability to utilize effectively technology, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the understanding of what that means and how it might inform your work and practices, leadership skills and abilities, professionalism, which Francesca said, that self-awareness, which is exactly what Corey said, and the ability to work on a team. And so the ideal situation is that over the course of your college career, in your classes, as well as outside of the classroom, you're learning all of these takeaways and being able to apply them in real world situations when getting hired for that first job.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, everybody. Just switching gears here really quick before we get into the mentor specific questions, we were hoping you all could share what the most fulfilling part of your current role here is. Mary, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, be happy to. I've worked in city government for a long time, and I would say that the delivery of services, whether that's police, fire, water, trash pickup, is so important to any community. And my little role of getting the right people in those right positions, getting the training, taking care of their problems, their issues, their benefits, I'm the support role to help them do their job and to deliver to the community and to the taxpayers. And so I would say that's probably my most fulfilling piece of it, that I'm not really a fireman or a policeman or a trash collector, but I support their work and I want to make sure they're successful at it.
Absolutely. As an HR manager, I feel very similarly in my role. So I had the privilege to be the HR manager for the City of Cleveland Convention and Visitors Bureau. We're a lean team of 45 employees, which makes it feel like more of a family. And our primary goal is to market the city of Cleveland to business and leisure travelers, to stimulate the economy and change perceptions of Cleveland. And in case you didn't know, for every dollar we spend advertising Cleveland, travelers return $195 to the community to stimulate the economy. And that's not just the city of Cleveland, that would be Northeast Ohio and beyond. And I would, to answer the question, learning from each one of my team members and what they love about the city of Cleveland. I may not be directly contributing like my peers in marketing, sales, or destination development, but getting to support them, like Mary said, is such an honor and the best part about my job.
That's awesome, Corey. Thanks for sharing that. A little background about After School All-Stars Cleveland and my position as the Development and Marketing Coordinator there. We are actually a national nonprofit organization, so we have chapters all across the country. I'm located in our Cleveland chapter, and what we do is we provide free to families comprehensive after-school programs for the under-resourced youth in the community. So we provide we provide programming in areas that focus on STEM, academic readiness, career exploration, health and fitness. So I would say the most fulfilling part of my current position is being able to be with the kids. Even though I'm not on the programming team, I get to go in sometimes and see the programs that we are implementing in these schools. And it's amazing to watch a kid demonstrate their new karate skills, or to have the kids bake you a new dish. Just all the things that the kids in our organization, what they're learning, is truly just the most fulfilling part.
So for me, I've been at Cleveland State for the past 9 years and working in public higher education for the majority of my career. And I could gush about how much I love Cleveland State for a very long time, but I think everyone around the table today would probably agree that it really is a special place. And for 8 years, I served as the director for pre-professional health programs, where my role was helping students navigate into professional terminal degree health programs such as medical school, dental school, or other programs. And now I've been able to bring that office along with me and merge it with our old career services office. And so our job is to prepare students for whatever their goals are when they leave CSU. And I know the direct impact that the work that we do is able to have on students. I know that when we have students that might be first generation college students or first generation American students that have a dream of becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or entering the workforce and getting a great first job when they graduate, that process to a lot of our students is a giant unknown. And we have the privilege to be able to help students not only build their resume while they're at CSU, but navigate every step of the way from their first year all the way through graduation and into landing that first job or getting that acceptance. And, you know, there isn't a better job out there. I really don't think that there is. There's a tangible outcome for every single student that we work with. And so my biggest privilege is helping other students to achieve their dreams. And so I know the level of the work that we do, it's really important, and it's changing generations to come in terms of their ability to make money, build their families, live, work, and stay in Cleveland. And that changes the trajectory of people's lives. And so I take a lot of responsibility for that and really love the work that I do.
That's
Excellent,
fantastic.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very heartwarming.
Yeah, I could tell that everybody in this room right now is extremely passionate about what they do, and you know, helping people, and that's really great. You know, it makes, you know, your job a lot easier when you're passionate about what you're doing. Definitely. So our next question, it may apply a little bit more to our recent Levin grads, but we wanted to know, you know, what kind of skills were you able to develop at Levin that translated to your internship?
I can jump in there. I would say, and this was touched on earlier, I would say social skills. So I could probably mention a few different courses and the content, but I think the most consistent would be the social skills I learned, and chatting with peers, different professors, faculty, and learning from them and tapping into their networks. I can think of several professors that I found out about Destination Cleveland. I found out about the organization through them. So had I not had that conversation, I may not be here today. And with social skills too, I would add ask questions, learn as much as you can. You're never going to get in trouble for asking too many questions, maybe, but learn as much as you can. You never know what you'll get and how you'll tap into that info later. Yeah.
I think that's great. Like, kind of going off of that, just the relationships and the communication, yeah, that I've had with, you know, the different folks at CSU. Everyone is so helpful. Alexandra, she really helped me get my internship, which led to my position now. So just having those relationships, you know, asking for help, keeping that communication open is just huge.
Great, excellent. And just sort of building off of your internship experience translating into a full-time position, what steps did you take to get the most out of that experience and build sort of a connection with that organization?
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. That is a great question. To give you all a little more background about myself, I was the development and marketing intern for After School All-Stars Cleveland at the beginning of 2021, and then I graduated CSU in 2021, so it was a great year. But going back to your question, I would say the steps that I took to get the most out of my internship were definitely asking a million questions, making sure that I stood out to my employers and my peers in the organization. I joined as many meetings as possible, even if they didn't necessarily pertain to me or my department, or even if I didn't know exactly what was going on. I really wanted to learn the full ins and outs of After School All-Stars Cleveland. And also I created meetings with different folks. I called them coffee chats. So I would set up these coffee chat meetings with different people in the Cleveland chapter, at the local organization, or I would set up meetings with folks from some of the other chapters, even on our national team. I really wanted to put a face to my name. I really wanted to get to know the people who were working in the organization. I really wanted as much advice as possible. So, I just set up these coffee chats. I got to learn a little bit about the background of these people. And so through that, I created great connections with everyone in the organization. And yeah, I think just taking those steps is important.
100%. I would echo all that. You've reduced my talking points down to about a third. So, but what I will add is I started as the HR intern at Destination Cleveland in 2018. And that was only a 3-month internship. And during that 3 months, I had no expectation. There was no promise of part-time, full-time. But what I did was I went above and beyond the assigned work where I could. I knew this was a huge opportunity after applying to what felt like hundreds of internship opportunities. I knew that I needed to make the most out of this one. So going above and beyond the assigned work, asking questions, and I would routinely take tasks away from the HR team that felt more administrative, but I knew that at the end of the 3 months, I may create a position for myself. Someone may not want those back, and that's exactly what happened. So go above and beyond. Some internships range in time, but especially with a shorter internship, make the most of it. Absolutely. Don't let a second go to waste.
And sorry, just to kind of jump back in, it's funny, me and Corey have very similar stories, because in my internship as well, right off the bat, I asked, are there going to be any job opportunities available for me after this internship? And initially I was told, nope, nothing is going to be available. I'm so sorry, it's just going to be the internship. But yes, by making myself stand out and going above and beyond with the set expectations, they found something in me and offered me a position and kind of created a role for me there. So I would say don't get discouraged either if an employer says there's nothing available after this internship. Really don't let that mess with you or anything. Just keep doing as much as you can and just keep presenting yourself, and yeah, just going above and beyond, like Corey said.
100%.
Those are excellent answers. And in that case, how can students maintain flexibility in free time when taking on a new job, internship, or otherwise? Because we see a lot of burnout nowadays, and especially when you're managing both school and an internship, and maybe you have a part-time job, it can be a lot. So how would you recommend students maintain that work-life balance?
That's a good question.
Very good question. Because it can be exhausting. But yeah, I had a part-time job. I was doing my internship and going to school full-time. I would just say prioritizing everything. Being organized is extremely helpful, and it lessens the load a little bit. So yeah, just prioritizing your time, finding what's most important to you, and just organizing your time and organizing each of those tasks that you need to do, and just also give yourself that free time. Remember to give yourself some mental health checks and some time for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was working, following my internship at Destination Cleveland, I was on for about 20 hours a week, still a full-time student, and worked 30 hours as a maintenance technician. So I definitely can relate to the burnout, because it felt like it would never end, and it was a summer internship, and I wanted to go hang out with my friends and have a life. But I knew that it was not forever. And I still ask myself this question to this day. Something my father taught me is ask yourself, what time is it? Is it time to work? Is it time to study? Is it time to relax? Ask yourself what time it is. be honest with yourself and never let me down.
That's great advice, everybody. One question, and this is mostly, we were hoping Mary could kick us off here, but of course, anybody feel free to chime in on this. As you're transitioning from one role to another, so that could be from an internship to a full-time position or sort of switching careers, how would you go about transferring your skill set from that previous position into your new role?
I will start and say that I think that when you're transitioning, simple is best. If you can, unless it's a technical position, I think that making sure that the job is something that you want to do, that you've had some experience, that you can demonstrate that you're willing to learn. Again, being flexible, adaptable. Back to the example of how do you balance all of those things, I would say to everyone that's watching this, as someone who has interviewed hundreds of people, when they tell me the story that they've gone to school, did an internship, worked a part-time job, there are bonus points, ding, 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 and gold stars put on those resumes, because that clearly demonstrates that they're focused. They know what their end goal is. Even if it's not a particular job, they know that being successful takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of hard work. But when you're marketing yourself, again, unless it's a really technical position, I think the simpler the better. If it is a technical position, then I think you do need to list specific examples of a particular program that or some other technical aspect of a particular job.
That's another fantastic point. And kind of to work Brittany in here, one of the things that your department does is they host pre-professional workshops, to orient new students in the colleges. Can you talk about those workshops a little bit and how students can really benefit from attending?
Yep, sure thing. I did want to mention, Courtni and Nate, you are both very actively involved students. So I think that balance question, you could offer some advice from being the current student perspective just as much, because I know how busy both of you are on campus and off campus. So I think it's great to ask the question, but hats off to you for the work that you put in right now already. And I think that just goes to show, you're here today moderating this panel and taking on that opportunity as well. So I think when it comes to balance and working hard, both of you have really figured it out in a lot of ways too. So regarding what career development and exploration does for students, we're trying to meet students when we meet them, and that is prospective students, first-year students, and then all the way through. I think oftentimes people think about our office as where to go when it's time to do a job search. And actually, we would like to meet you far before that. And rather than just coming in those last few months or in that last year, we would love to help you really come up with a strategy and develop a relationship with your career coach that is lasting, that is transformational to your college experience. And every single college has 2 career coaches that are people that are there to support you. And so what you can do is schedule an introduction meeting at any point in time during your college career and start mapping out. You have an academic advisor who's helping you get to graduation. If you're meeting with your academic advisor, that's a great time to schedule an appointment with your career coach too, because an academic advisor's job is to get you to graduation. Our job is to get you into the rest of your life. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we really do take that work seriously and want to meet you where you're at. Some of the supportive, more group-focused workshops that we offer: resume building, resume writing. We do mock interviewing, and we also offer a program called Resume RX, which we invite employer volunteers to come in. Corey, I think you've done that before. And have you been one of the resume reviewers before too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we invite employers to come in either in the morning or the afternoon, and students drop in and share their resume with a current employer that may or may not be hiring, and they're able to have a good conversation about tweaks that they can make to their resume. And then the conversation can kind of go anywhere from there. And then the same goes for mock interview days. We have employer volunteers that mock interview our students and give feedback right there and then to help students develop in their interviewing skills. So that's just a snapshot. We also offer a ton of employer spotlights. We recently had the FBI, CIA, and Secret Service do a government, I called it Detective Day. That was not what it was actually, but we had 100 students in the ballroom a couple of weeks ago to hear about those government-oriented positions. We have actually tomorrow, the Cleveland Clinic is doing a similar event where some of the recruiters are coming in to talk about working at the clinic in healthcare or not healthcare oriented positions. And over the course of this semester, there's always special pop-up events as well. So I really do think that there's something for everyone, regardless of what year you are, and ways in which you can interact with our office as an individual with your career coach, or attending a group session that allows you to learn more about something that you might not know anything about. We put all of our events online. We have a really active Instagram handle at CSU Careers, and we would love to see more students coming out for our in-person or virtual events.
And just to go off that a little bit, I love what you said, Brittany. It's amazing. And talking from personal experience, I was definitely someone who waited until the last minute to talk.
I saw that giggle when I said that.
I was like, oh no, that's me. And I so wish I could have gone back and started that journey and had met the awesome team in the Levin College like way sooner. So just some advice, definitely form those relationships before your senior year. It really is beneficial.
And let me just put a pitch into Alexandra and Rob. They do amazing work in helping our students connect with their internships, and they offer a lot of that one-on-one personal attention as well. So I highly recommend you have this amazing service within your college, and you also have us. And so I think hand in hand, we can really help each individual student navigate where they want to go, even if you don't know where you want to go yet.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's going to be rushing the handshake after this to make an appointment with career development. So that was great. Just to kind of switch gears a little and talk a little bit more about job searching, we were hoping you could all share your experience with how long the process took to apply to internships or apply to jobs, and if there was anything specific that you considered when applying to those roles.
I'm going to jump in first, just because I mentioned earlier that searching for an internship and searching for a job is such a strategy. And when I was getting ready to apply for my very first job after I was finishing up my master's degree, I had a giant spreadsheet of every job that I applied for, every password for every application, the contact if I knew someone at the institution, any kind of follow-up that I did, links to websites. I created this master document because I knew that I was doing, me personally, I was doing a national job search, and I knew I was going to land within higher education, but I was not sure where, what job. I had a lot of interests, and so I really put myself out there. And so that very first job search, I applied to 44 positions. I ended up going to a national conference where I interviewed for 20 different positions over several days. And then ultimately I navigated from there to final round interviews, job offers, negotiating all of that. And I say that because sometimes I think the strategy of job searching goes far beyond the idea of just applying to a handful of positions and waiting for months to see if anything materializes. And if I was to offer one piece of advice to every graduating senior, is to figure out a strategy and stick to it, because every single person has a great job waiting for them. And I am certainly convinced of that. It sometimes does take a long time and strategy and really navigating, making sure your resume is great, making sure every cover letter is great, to land the position that you want, and make sure that you find a good fit too. I was so fortunate that I landed my first position in academic advising at Miami University, and those 4 years there really set me up for success in everything that has come since then. And now I'm 16 years into my career in higher education, and I'm in a university that I love and still in Ohio, and really invested in the university where I work, and hope to make a difference in the lives of students for many years to come.
Yeah, amazing story there. I can definitely relate to interviewing and absolutely blowing interviews with Sherwin-Williams and Swagelok. I bombed them, but I learned from them, and the more I failed, the better I got. So I would also add persistence. Be persistent. You'll get what you put out in the world, and that goes beyond a job search. So you put in the work, you put in the time, it'll come back to you. I absolutely agree, Brittany. There is a perfect job waiting for everyone.
I would add that I think right now in the job market, things have changed quite a bit. If you had asked this question 5 years ago, 3 years ago, I think it would take a different strategy. The strategy now is much faster paced because the job market is so open. There's a lot more, I guess, fluidity in the job market, and more jobs available. But I agree with everything that was said. You have to be persistent. You have to do your homework. You have to know a little bit about the company. I can't tell you the number of interviews where they come in and you ask one basic question about, in my case, the city of Avon Lake. They don't know anything about the community. And then others come in and they rattle off statistics. And it just shows that they've done their homework and that they've been persistent about it.
Yeah, I'll just add in, Corey, I share that, sometimes you go to an interview and you don't really know what to expect and you kind of feel like you bombed it. But that's just a learning experience in itself, really. It just tells you, don't over stress about something, but, prepare differently next time. And I think the theme of today is that, there's resources for this, like resources. That's what the college is all about. You're paying to go to school here. We have excellent faculty and staff who are dedicated to their jobs and want to see students shine. That's why they're here. Take advantage of those resources is the one piece of advice I wish I would have listened to earlier, honestly. Another question I had, and I'm personally interested in, is what are some areas that you felt like you needed to adapt to when you were entering the professional world that you felt you didn't realize right away and you learned over time? And if anybody wants to start this off, go ahead.
I can start things off. Definitely diving deep into the nonprofit world. I didn't expect to have to wear as many hats as I do. I thought it would just be one area focusing on one department, but that is just so far from the truth. It's great though, because you get to learn different areas, different departments, but definitely in the world of nonprofit, just be prepared to just wear many hats and do many different jobs.
I would second that wholeheartedly, but I think that it's more pronounced than nonprofit, but yeah, absolutely. I would also add, don't be afraid to ask questions. The advice I gave about asking questions among your peers in school, apply it to work. Everyone's human too. I was welcomed with open arms when I asked questions. And learning on the fly, a lot of the technical stuff, that will come with time, so don't get discouraged. I know I was beating myself up when I didn't understand Ohio local taxes. Mary, I'm sure you're very familiar, yeah. But a lot of that will come with time. Yeah, and I would, another phrase is always under promise and over deliver. Don't over promise anything.
Cory, I am literally the exact opposite of that. notion. I always have the highest hopes and expectations and then get disappointed. So I think there's two ways to live your life. And I was literally today talking with a staff member about the under promise, over deliver ideal versus my ideal, which is just always have high hopes, high dreams, high expectations. And then if it falls flat, then I'll be disappointed and move on. So I don't know what's better. Is the always optimism better, or like making sure that you're always even keeled and then over deliver and knock it out of the park better? I don't know. I'd love other perspectives on that.
I think they're both great. I think they're both.
I think
great.
they're both great too.
Yeah, I would.
I think I
they're
live in a
both
world
good.
where I get disappointed more often, but then I'm resilient and I'm able to move on from those disappointments.
100%.
I think it depends on your role too. I think it depends on where you are in the organization. Because you get your comfort level, but you gain so much experience by doing that.
Excellent. Yeah, and we did touch on this a little when Brittany was sort of bringing up her expertise with career development. But I do want to give everybody the chance to sort of shout out any resources that you think, you know, us as students should be taking advantage of. So any sort of programs or scholarships, volunteer opportunities, anything like that.
Again, I would just say the relationships, the people, you utilize the people there, your professors, any career coaches, academic advisors, utilize the people that are there for you. Go to the different programs and events that they're throwing. Just be a part of like the CSU community. Really try and insert yourself and build those relationships.
Francesca or Nate or Courtney, feel free to shout out the organizations that you were a part of too. I think that is critical to the student experience too.
Yeah, I was gonna add, I have to always give the plug for the APA, American Planning Association. You know, if you're in Levin, even if you're an undecided major, American Planning Association is the you know, student body organization chapter of the American Planning Association. We do a lot of cool events with you know, around topics in Cleveland, such as like you know, they're doing a lakefront plan right now on the east side with Cleveland Metro Parks. We did an event around that. And we have some really cool events coming up about a new green space that's happening on campus, or an improved green space on campus. So we're going to try to interact with a lot of different students. So definitely be in the loop for that. And you can sign up on Bikes Connect too. And I can put that in the chat.
Awesome. I think one thing that COVID has really impacted is a lot of students not knowing about campus culture or about how to be a college student. And when you think about it, for Courtni, I mean, you really just this year got your chance at being a college student. You started online, right? And for other students, I think a lot of their college careers have been virtual. And so there isn't a virtual college student experience, but there is a very vibrant campus full of experiences, opportunities, and ways in which you can develop. And, you know, whether you're in the ping pong club or the American Planning Association, it doesn't matter to me what you do. I think just do and be a part of the CSU community. You know, CSU's tagline is being an engaged university. And I think all staff and all of the faculty, as well as the administration top down, we want our students to be that picture of being engaged. And I think the way in which we approach that has changed over the past few years, but the more I think students want to be a part of the institution, the better opportunities come their way. So it's not just about utilizing resources, it's about looking at what you want to do and what you want to accomplish during the very short time that you're in college, and taking advantage of those opportunities as they come, because it's going to go quickly. And then all of a sudden you're in that first full-time position, and maybe you'll look back and say, wow, I really got the most out of Cleveland State that I possibly ever could have. Or maybe you'll look back and say, wow, I wish I would have done X, Y, Z. And I hope that that it's the former, that you get the most out of your CSU experience that you possibly can, and that you look back on your college experience very fondly, and then set that up for someone else. I want you to become a mentor too one day.
I would add that transitions into the workforce too. When you go to be at an agency or a company, get involved, be involved, get to know the various things that the company does, volunteer for the litter cleanup day or the birthday club or whatever it is, because the more you're engaged in that, the more you'll feel a part of the organization that you're working for.
I want to join the birthday club, just FYI. That sounds great.
Great. Yeah.
Go ahead, Nate.
Oh, I was just gonna, kind of transition to, a lot of students worry about changing years halfway through or changing careers. CSU actually has a lot of older students, returning students who may have gotten a degree 20 years ago in one thing, but now are thinking about something else. And I've met a lot of those students. In your opinion, do you think a nonlinear career path can damage a professional reputation when you're applying for a job? And maybe Mary can start us off since she has the most experience.
I would say absolutely not. And I will start with myself. I started in municipal government. I left municipal government and went to work for medicine. I left medicine and went back to government. But everything just, things layers upon layers. When I first started moving from government into medicine and developing, there were things that I had done in the political governmental work that transitioned naturally over to the medical world side of it. I think it's all about what you want to learn and what you want to make of it. Kind of Brittany's, the glass is half full. You can either say it's empty or it's full. And I think that more and more people are going to be in that role of starting one thing and maybe pivoting. When you were talking about the FBI coming in, probably a few years ago, most students would say, oh, they want criminal justice people in the FBI. I happen to have been part of the FBI Citizens Academy. I've gone through the program. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for psychology majors, sociology majors, computer forensic people. It's not just criminal justice. And so there's a lot of time to pivot, but going back to what we've all emphasized, it's using the resources at Cleveland State. It's talking to the people there. But I would say never be worried about making a right turn or a 90-degree angle. I've done it multiple times. And when I look back at the time, I think, oh my God, someone so wise told me, leap and the net will appear. So take a chance.
Absolutely. I would absolutely say no, it would not damage. I would agree. If I were to have told myself in high school as a senior that I was going to be an HR professional one day, I would have laughed. I chose in high school to attend a vocational school to be a firefighter and EMT. Very early on, I decided that line of work is for people braver than I am. I had learned that early on. I was given the opportunity to learn that, and I'm grateful for that experience. Learned a lot of great leadership qualities. There's a lot of transferable skills. The technical stuff, again, comes with time and training, but the social skills, the self-awareness, the professionalism, a lot of that carries over. I didn't know I was going to CSU until after I graduated high school. I had no idea. So I would say no. It would not damage it. Like Mary said, take a leap.
And coming at it from a perspective from a student who is still in college, don't be afraid to change your major. I changed my major like 4 times. It took me like 5.5 years to complete a 4-year degree, but I couldn't be happier with what I chose to do and the career direction. So just don't be afraid to change your mind. Try something new, and it's going to work out. It's going to work itself out.
I kind of look at it as every experience that you have is only preparing you for the next. So whatever it is that you are doing, whether it's serving, downtown a couple nights a week, or working at Amazon, and every single thing that you do will prepare you for what comes after that. And it's all building tools, skills, and abilities. And it's about how you look at that growth. And I don't think there's anything wrong with scooping ice cream at my favorite ice cream, Mitchell's, or any other kind of job that, especially, when you are younger in your career, you can build upon anything and you don't really necessarily know where it takes you. And actually, I did actually just meet with the person who does marketing and communications for Mitchell's a couple of weeks ago. You know what she did before she got her job in marketing and communications? Scooped ice cream. So you really never know where one thing will lead to another. And if I look back over all of the various roles that I've played, even though it seems very linear, when I was in college, I worked in the career services office and I did resume review and editing. Then I ran a professional development leadership seminar while I was in college. I did Greek life. I did residence life and academic advising, but every course that I taught, whether it was a first year course or a career planning course, every next job really has built upon the last. And I didn't know where my career was going to take me. And I have just sought out, when I knew it was time to do a job search, I sought out what the next thing was and landed very softly in the interim. And I knew when I was thinking about job searching, when this job became available last spring, I didn't know that this was my next job. And I am so excited and lucky to have been selected. But I think that it's okay not to know and to see what's out there. And to interview, as Corey talked about earlier, to interview terribly maybe. And I don't think, Corey, you would be a terrible interviewer, just for the record, having now worked with you a little bit for the past few months. So I don't think that was an accurate picture, but you can prove me wrong. But I think
you don't want that.
No, don't. But you can go and have these experiences and we get so serious about all of it, but ultimately this is the good stuff. The job search is the good stuff and the fruit of all of the hard work that you've put in. And so you can see where you landed. Francesca, I am super curious. Did you end up just applying for one job and landing it? Was that your path?
So, yeah, my path I'm very blessed and grateful for. After my internship, I only had to interview for the internship, and then I was asked to be the assistant development and marketing coordinator, and then I was just recently promoted to the development and marketing coordinator in November. So I got really blessed. My first internship, my first job was something I'm truly passionate about and something I really love. So it's been great.
That's amazing. Also not normal. And also it's not that you are blessed, it's that you put the work in and deserve every single accolade that you have.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this topic of sort of like linear versus nonlinear career paths is something that's really interesting to me and something I've definitely talked with my mentor about personally. And I just can't help but think of the advice that she gave me, which was, if anything, a nonlinear career path in some instances is almost stronger for certain candidates because they have that drive behind why they're applying to that position. So that was something that was really impactful for me as somebody. I haven't necessarily changed my major many times, but I do feel like I have so many varied interests that this is definitely, I think, a topic that pertains to a lot of students. So thank you all for your thoughts on that. I also do want to remind everybody in our audience that we do have a Q&A feature, so feel free to drop your questions in there. Nate and I will be monitoring those. If anybody has anything, feel free to drop that in there. But just while I'm waiting for some questions to populate in there, another question we have, just sort of switching gears here, is we are curious for all of you, how has your field changed over the course of the pandemic? And what can students do to keep up with these changes that are just continuing to happen, sort of?
I'll start by saying that I think having the skills to do remote interviews, obviously, but there's some basic things. I mean, making sure that you don't have spelling errors. I mean, I'm old school. If I see an error, something jumps out at me, a word misused or misspelled or incomplete or really sloppy, I do sort of put that person aside. They could have the greatest experience in the world, but I think to myself, wait a minute, this isn't their best foot. They didn't put their best foot forward. So I would say the interview skills that are not in person, and you do get a totally different vibe over the camera versus having somebody in person. You can sense their ability to respond quickly and right there in the moment. You also have the chance to sort of watch them pause and think and give thoughtful answers back versus you don't know what notes they had because you are not seeing what they have in front of them. I think that coupled with right now the job market, I think those are the two biggest, in my world, those are the two biggest things.
I would say flexibility. Guidelines, rules, laws are changing constantly. Not so much as of recently, but flexibility, and with that too, empathy. Understand that a work from home might be difficult for a young family. So kids are at home, that's challenging. So be empathetic, try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Is probably the biggest thing. And not being in person, it's hard, especially in my role. I can't just like drop by someone's office or workstation and say, hey, how's it going? How are the kids? How's the yard? Whatever. It's more of an effort and it's harder when it's all digital. So I'd say empathy and flexibility.
I would definitely say like working on your communication, especially when things are remote, and then you could do in-person things like after school all-stars. We've been doing more in-person things, like our programming has gone back to in-person, but there are definitely some days where we're still remote, and we as a group and as a team, we function better in person. So I would say for like our organization and our chapter, we definitely had to focus on the communication and how can we communicate better during like remote work. And so I would just say figuring out that communication, especially if you're working remotely.
Yeah, those are all really, really great points. Thank you for sharing. So we do have some audience questions now. One question we have is, Brittany, can you talk a little bit more about your interview experiences before working at Miami? You said you had 44 interviews, which is an incredible number, by the way.
No. I applied for 44 positions.
Okay, great. And how'd you not get discouraged with your job search?
So for me, okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. So what I was referring to is that I had a strategy. I knew I was going to apply from California to DC. Some of my top jobs were in California and in North Carolina. So I was literally willing to go coastal because I was looking for a great fit within higher education. And so in the higher education world, there are a couple of national conferences where all of the universities attend and do interviews. So I did 20 interviews over a few days and had to prepare for those. So I did not fly around the country to 20 different locations. I mean, that does sound like a very glamorous lifestyle, but no, that was not my experience. So I did 20 interviews over a couple of days. And then from there, I started doing on-campus and second round interviews. So I honestly don't know the total number. I could go back. I still have it all, kind of like a diary. But I do have that spreadsheet still. And I refer to it sometimes, not because I want to look back on it, but because as I've progressed in my career I went from applying to 44 jobs. And then when I knew it was time for me to leave Miami after 4 years, I applied for 12 jobs and I ended up in Boston. And from Boston, I knew that it wasn't a great fit for me, and I had to boomerang back, and I needed to be within a driving distance of home. And that was really important to me. And I learned that by being 11 hours away from home. So then I came back to Ohio and have stayed ever since, and worked at the University of Akron and then up here at Cleveland State. So every job search that I did, I applied for less and less positions because I was more narrowly focused. And this past year, when I knew it was time to job search, I applied for 3 positions and interviewed for 2, withdrew from 1, and here I am. And this was the job that I wanted. And I was very fortunate that it worked out that way. But I think that everyone's job search is different, but everybody has the opportunity to be strategic about their first job search. And for me, originally, when it was my first time to do it, I was doing a national search. I was looking at pretty particular areas of higher education. I didn't want to work in financial aid. I didn't want to work in a job that didn't have a lot of activity with students and directly supporting students. So I was looking at Greek life, residence life, academic advising, hybrid positions. And like I said, I think the perfect job is out there for everyone. It's just about finding it. And then, you sell yourself, and you make sure that it's a good fit before you land there. You don't have to accept the first offer. And I think what Mary was saying, it's a pretty fast-paced market right now. There's a lot of jobs out there. And with some of our students, it's more about negotiating fit and negotiating that offer, as opposed to applying for so many positions months in advance. I think in old school, Mary, you can maybe share this. I think it was 3 to 6 months was pretty average for landing a position in that job search. Now, oh my gosh, it's lightning speed.
When can you start? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when can you start? 3 weeks? Does that work?
Right, right.
It's a totally different world. And so it's identifying the roles that you are really interested in. Hopefully the timelines work out. And then you negotiate and figure out where you want to be. And a lot of students are managing multiple offers. It's not everyone, but if you are interviewing a lot, mock interviewing, making sure, have somebody practice with you so that you know that what you're doing is exactly what you should be doing for the jobs that you're looking for. Make sure your resume and cover letter is not standard for every single job that you apply to. Apply to the job with the resume that highlights the experiences in a way that is what they are looking for, and make sure that you're writing the cover letter directly. Pretend like you're talking directly to the company, and that way they really hear how genuine you are and why you want to work there. Do your research.
Absolutely. I love that word that you're using, Brittany, strategy. I feel like that's a really great way to look at it. Moving on, we do have another audience Q&A question. This one's from Emily, and she's asking if, do you have any tips for applying to non-traditional positions, particularly Americorps or any gap year programs?
I am a huge fan of gap year positions. If you don't know what you want to do, go get experience full-time for a year. And there are so many amazing opportunities that you can do for 1 year and it's set up that way, or 2 years and it's set up that way. Teach for America, City Year here in Cleveland is an Americorps program. There's a program working in healthcare that's called Crush, where you get to go out and work in the schools and help students navigate public health issues and navigate what health disparities are. And you work with kids in grade school all the way up through high school level in that program. And these are designed to be 1 year programs. The Peace Corps is amazing. They are finally starting to take applications and move people into Peace Corps volunteer positions again. So apply. I think Peace Corps is 27 months. Teach for America is 27 months. You get your teacher licensure and you go work in a very rural or urban area and teach for 2 academic years. And those pauses can be so informative to help you figure out where to go from there. And I know TFA as well as City Year, I believe, still has deadlines this year if someone is listening and just really not sure what they want to do.
And our organization, After School All-Stars Cleveland, we actually just brought on for the first time an Americorps Vista member. So she'll be volunteering with us for a year to assist with fundraising and marketing. And as I'm talking to her and getting to know her and why she's interested in doing the Americorps Vista position, you know, she just really explained she wants to do what she loves. She wants to help and give back to her community. And she set goals for herself. She wants to learn X, Y, and Z through the next year, and that's going to be the focus. So if you do something like that through Americorps or another organization, I would just say, like, have your goals set and just do something that you're passionate about. And if you want to give back to your community, you can do it that way too.
I'll just add to that. You know, this isn't a personal example, but I have a friend who's a planning student, and he's going to do a few months in New Mexico and working with kids out there. I mean, that's just the type of, you know, non-traditional path, but it shows that you care. It shows that you're open to new experiences, and it shows that you're willing to, you know, literally move across the country for a while, you know, to have a different experience, which you can take from that experience and apply it to your skill set, apply it to whatever job you're looking at. And our last question, our last Q&A question for the day, it looks like, is from Josh. And he asks, how do you anticipate the job market changing in the next few years? What skills and competencies will become critical?
Mary, I think you should take it away.
Well, I would say that probably some basic things: communication, being able to communicate, understanding customer service. Customer service is the basis of probably 90% of the jobs in the United States. If you can listen to somebody, if you can figure out what their problem is or what their issue is and be able to support an answer or get an answer or solve it, is probably half the battle. I think in the future, it is going to be a lot more of the focus of most jobs. I think maybe before COVID and maybe a few years ago, it was more money, making money, product development, getting things out faster. But now it seems to be taken a more personal approach because people have survived this pandemic now, and they're feeling like it's time to really think about the future of humanity on our planet. And it sounds really big and bold, but it's really all about understanding your audience, what you're trying to deliver, understanding how you communicate, what can you do to be better. I think those are all the things. The other skill set is again, adaptability. And, you know, when you were talking about changing your major, changing your mind, or changing your course, here's the thing: you want to do something that you enjoy. And sometimes you go and work in a place like Corey did. He realized that safety forces was not path for him. You know, he could have put 3 or 4 or 5 years into it, but he realized it just wasn't the path for him. And boy, the sooner you find that out, the happier you will be, because you will focus your energy and attention on what's going to get you to that goal of feeling fulfilled and feeling like your talents are being utilized.
I think also kind of on the cusp, upskilling and getting additional skills beyond what you have automatically from your degree. So there are so many free opportunities with continuing education on LinkedIn Learning to advance your skill set. And I think upskilling where you want to go, and any kind of tech skills are always valuable, and not having to teach someone everything, I think, is really valuable. In the nonprofit world, I think I think there's a lot of work that's happening across nonprofits and a lot of people that do similar work that are coming together and talking to each other, and it's amazing. And in Cleveland, there are sector partnerships that involve a ton of different nonprofits working together, all for the cause of advancing and growing the workforce. And so I think there is really amazing work happening in Cleveland in the nonprofit space, in the government space, with a new administration entirely. There are opportunities and changes to the way in which we're doing work. And I think that will change the workforce and change the nature of the roles, and that teamwork element, how you partner and work well with others, is critical to advancing in your own career, because it's about being able to help others, but also being able to work together to do that. The other thing that I think is really changing, and it's not so much in the workplace, although I think the workplace has a place for advancing on its own, is that those who are entering the workforce expect a lot out of their employers, and that is a positive workplace culture that is they expect a good experience. If you're going to pay me for 40 hours a week, then I also want to have a good experience doing it. And I think that was not the culture always, ever, maybe. So I think the demands on employers to really define and create the culture that is meaningful, but that's also appealing to first destination students is also pretty critical. So I think that's how those who are searching are changing, because they have pretty high expectations, and those who are hiring have to meet those expectations. So I think the workforce is changing in higher education and nonprofits, in government, everywhere. The workforce is changing, and there is a need to adapt across both sides of it.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you everybody so much. I think at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Rob for some sort of closing remarks here.
Hi, everybody. Well, first of all, has been an amazing conversation. And I'm over here like trying to write down notes. I've been at this job for like 20 years, but I'm like, writing down a concept of trying to be adaptable, trying to like find new horizons, kind of like tap into all the resources that are available, all the suggestions and the reinforcement of these concepts by our entire panel, I think was amazing. I also like the fact that we had some folks that are starting out their journey, and then folks that have been, around the block a few times and are kind of coming back as more like mentors and coaches and advisors. So I would just suggest that all the panelists and our participants that are here today, we can all learn from each other and take these notes and take it back to where you're at and continue on your journey. I wanted to jump in earlier, but I was like, I'm not invited to be a panelist. I'm just here to do this hello and goodbye. But I definitely want to say, like, please be open to how your career evolves and opportunities present themselves. I was in sales and marketing before I came to the university, so I knew nothing about the public sector work or nonprofit work. And I was in sales and marketing, and I was actually in telemarketing, which was a really terrible job. But it taught me a ton, because I got over the concept of rejection and just kind of having the keep going at it every day, and then the idea of creating new relationships and going out there to try to find new things. Those skills from the customer service, the sales, the marketing stuff, it's what landed me the job here at the college. I didn't even know how to spell or give a definition of what public administration or public service was all about when I first got here, but I knew how to go out and market the program. I knew that I could go out and develop relationships and identify what our customer service needs were, address those things. So my point of it is that your journey in life, I think what Brittany said, that your current jobs helps you prepare for the next job. All of those things are going to help you get ready for whatever God has in front of you for your next thing. And for me, the thing about coming to this college and working in the public and nonprofit sector was the fact that I was bored of and tired of hitting quotas and filling truckloads of materials. I wanted to do something that made a difference in our community, that made a difference in the lives of the people that I touched every day. And that's what this college has allowed me to do. And I see that every day in working with Mary through our Public Management Academy, Francesca and Nate and Corey, when they were coming through the different programs that we have and what their desire was to make a difference in the community. And it's just a pleasure and honor to be part of that journey. But I had no idea when I was 20, 25, 30, probably 35 years old, that this is where I would be placed today. And I wouldn't change it. Just like Brittany said, we have the best job, the best place, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So I guess my point is, take what you've heard today, take these experiences. There's a ton of knowledge, resources, and people that are interested in helping out, and use that for the rest of your time with us at CSU and beyond, because most of us are just getting started, and making an impact in our society. I'm going to end with, besides a thank you to everybody, I'm going to end with my pitch or my vision for our center is all about the 3 C's. And I want our team to focus on the 3 C's to help our students. And that the 3 C's for me are our coursework. So whatever your degree track is, your competencies, which we've all heard about today, about through the internships and the jobs where people have been able to work on. And last but not least is those connections. And so that's the relationships that you've learned as far as through about your internships, your mentoring relationships, volunteering, fellowships, whatever it is. But in my opinion, that those 3 C's kind of helps you to develop a plan for now and as you evolve in the future, because the 3 C's, what they are is basically building your brand and having your portfolio. So, and that portfolio doesn't end when you graduate. It actually, that's when it just gets started. So I'm going to stop blabbering on because people have things to do for work or for dinner or for college, for classes tonight. But I can't thank our panelists enough for everything you've done, and also for our moderators. Thank you so much for all the prep you put into this. Thanks to Alexandra and her team for getting us ready to rock and roll today. And I just want to say thank you for the conversation. Just amazing job, and really proud of you all. And thanks for letting me be part of this journey.